Hello, and welcome to Lead, Learn, Connect, where we explore the worlds of training, coaching, and powerful leadership. I'm your host, Alan Krieger, and on this show we talk about not just the how of helping others grow, but the behind-the-scenes work of overcoming challenges and staying connected to what's really important. Tyler Valerio, a former U.S. Marine captain, endurance athlete, and performance psychology expert, is dedicated to helping people live with purpose and resilience. He's joining us today, and he is currently leading several leadership development programs. Whether you're a new trainer, a seasoned facilitator, or just curious about what it takes to thrive in this world, this episode is for you. Welcome, Tyler.
Thanks for having me, Alan. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'd like to hear a little bit more about your leadership programs. One of the things that people talk about when they are wanting to teach leadership, they have a long list. We got this, lots of skills. We got to pack it in all up front. We don't have time for this training. It becomes information overload. It goes in one ear and out the other. So how do you move from that kind of overload to training that really sticks? What's your design or your strategies for making training effective?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the most common issues that a lot of trainings have run into. And leaders' biggest complaint is, I don't have time. I don't have time to sit here for 6 hours over, 2 or 3 days. Like, I have to do this work. I only need to learn about this one thing. Why can't you do that? So we listened. We took a lot of these programs that cover 12 different topics, and we broke it out into almost 12 smaller separate programs that focus on those specific skills. Just using feedback as an example, because it's one that comes up almost all the time for leaders and teams in general. Saying, if you want to learn about feedback, we're going to provide you with a lot of different resources based on feedback, not just individual self-paced learning resources, application guides about how do you actually deliver effective feedback, how do you solicit the right kind of feedback, and how do you even just take that feedback and make it more actionable for yourself. That way, when you actually get to the program itself, when you're getting the butt in the seat, so to speak, it's very focused on what you need to learn, and we're only going to spend that hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours, however long we can make the program, focused on feedback. So you're able to choose what you want to learn, when you want to learn it, and it's delivered in a way that's going to be applicable to what you needed when.
So how do you decide, first of all, which of the 12 skills you're going to teach? And how do you decide how to make it applicable? What kind of, I guess, preliminary work do you do? Do you do any assessments ahead of time, or talk with folks? How do you kind of design the training to be customized to your audience?
It's really listening to the leaders as well as digging through the data, right? If you have a lot of requests coming in and leaders are only requesting these 3 or 4 skills, whether it's feedback, coaching, understanding emotional intelligence, creating psychological safety, those are the 4 that we get requests most often for, then obviously that's where you probably want to put most of your time up front, really building from that. And then that's going to show you what else you need to do. So after the feedback session, someone might say, oh, this is great, but I really need to understand X as well. Like, how do I act on feedback? How do I follow up on feedback? Well, then that's going to tie more into performance management. So after they go through the feedback session, you can recommend different things for performance management. And now you know that you have to start building that performance management session as well. And that's just where you start. Because, of course, this is something that needs to be built out. It needs to be iterated on. It needs to be evolving as leaders' needs evolve too. Because you might have delivered feedback in 2019 when you're sitting across from the person and it's really intimate. Of course, we all know what happened a year later with the shift to remote work and hybrid and doing things virtually. Well, now how do you deliver feedback virtually? A lot of those concepts are going to be the same, but preparing for it, getting in front of a camera, that's going to be a little bit different than sitting across from the person. So always understanding that's an iterative process. And then going back to the assessments, it's asking the question, what do you feel you need to learn about? What are those top 10 skills that you feel are going to be most impactful for you right now? And then even looking at the different levels, because of course, sticking with feedback for a frontline manager, that brand new leader. Delivering that session is going to be a little bit different then that senior leader, that leader of leader who's not just delivering feedback, they're creating a culture of feedback. They're really making sure that everyone at every level understands what feedback is, why it's important, and then how do you ask for it and deliver it as well. So there's a lot of things that go into it, and it's never going to be that we're done process. It's always going to be iterative, always something that you need to cycle through.
Okay. Yeah. And it's never one size fits all. You got to adjust it for audience levels and so on. Speaking of levels, you wrote an interesting book. Most leaders are looking at how can I move up, right? I want to do my job well, but I'm also looking to move up. So climbing the ladder is kind of the corporate mantra. And your book is called Get Off the Ladder. So talk a little bit about that. You talk about a cyclical process. What do you mean by that? And how does that fit into a leader's development?
Absolutely. And I think of a lot of us, like you're talking about with the ladder, see it as linear, right? I have a start point and I have a very specific end point that I want to get to. And that kind of has two problems with it. The first is if we set that end point way too far off. If you're that brand new leader and you say, I'm going to be the CEO of this company one day, that's a very aspirational dream. And it might take a very long time to get there. So when you're still climbing and it's been years and you've put in tons of effort and that endpoint still seems so far away, you get a little disillusioned, a little demotivated. Like, I don't really feel like I can reach that endpoint. There's no point in trying. So you give up and your development gets stunted. Whereas if you set the endpoint way too close, you climb up, you breeze past the rungs too quick, and you get to that endpoint. You did it. I'm here. I'm done. Now what? There's still a lot of time to go. There's still a lot of development that can and should happen, but you feel like you've made it to the top, and starting on a new path is just too much work. And that's that very linear thinking. Whereas if you have that cyclical thinking, you know the process is going to start over again, and it should. You know that the process can start over again. And the more times you go through the cycle, the more times you iterate on it, the better you're going to get at it. So development becomes a part of your life. It doesn't just happen once and then you're done. You know it's going to happen again, and it keeps you much more engaged with the process. There's no start and end point. So you know that you're going to do the work, and the work's going to take however long it takes. And you're going to get to the end point where you can stop and say, I did it. I feel accomplished. I can have that moment of satisfaction and fulfillment, and it's going to eventually fade away. But when it does, it's okay, because it's a very natural process for the cycle to start over again. And for leaders, I think that's a very difficult hurdle to get over, because some of them might be working tirelessly, getting the degrees, the certifications, the experience to get to that certain point that they determined long ago was the final destination of success. Whether I'm the subject matter expert, whether I'm the person leading this very specific team, once I get there, that's it. I'm going to be good. I'm going to be fulfilled. Then they get to that point and kind of go, ooh, this isn't what I thought it would be. I don't have the lasting sense of satisfaction and fulfillment, and that holds them back. They feel like this is the only thing they could have done. This is as far as they could have gotten, and they don't feel the need to continue that development. But development is continuous. It's honing the basics. It's going back to the beginning. It's restarting the process over and over and having that continuous growth, understanding that you can always do a little bit better.
Okay, so it is still a moving up, but it's not moving up in a linear straight line. It's being able to kind of go with the flow. And the other thing that happens when you're moving up the ladder is that a branch appears that wasn't in your plans and might be a good branch. And so having that open mind and being able to adjust and take it one piece at a time rather than zipping along. All right, sounds like a great framework for people to kind of rethink what they're doing. And you work with a lot of technical people, and we've been talking about soft skills as an area of common interest. Do you run into people who just think it's not relevant? I do my job. The guy works for me. He's doing his job. We just do our job. We don't need to talk about it. We don't need to share our feelings. So emotional intelligence, some people just write that off as unimportant. So what's your pitch or what's your approach to getting real technical people to buy into the need for developing that human side.
The phrase "what got you here won't get you there." Getting to a certain level in the technical field means you have to be the subject matter expert. Understanding different code, those different languages, how to do root cause analysis and problem solve, being that true individual contributor, and knowing if I sit down and do my work, I am going to be successful. And once they get into that leadership role, that changes, where it's no longer how well you can do your job, it's how well everyone else can do your job. And it's really understanding who those people are, because just because you learned how to code one way doesn't mean someone's going to do it another way. Just because you prefer to work these hours and have this working style doesn't mean someone else is going to have that working style as well. So being able to understand those nuances, those team dynamics, those communication dynamics, going back to the team assessment, is really going to help them be successful as that leader and get to that next level, get to where it is they want to go, and get their team to where they want to go. It's not just what you know how to do, it's what you can enable others to do once you get into that leadership role.
Yeah, and I certainly subscribe to everything you said. Your team style was M, mediator, which is the human side, but I'm sure you're working with a lot of A's, the analyzers, and T's, the tellers that just want to get the job done. So you gave a very good presentation. What's the piece that gets them to buy it? Where's the hook that gets through to them? Because you're really talking a different language. Yeah, you've got to know these people. If they just do their job and I tell them how to do their job, everything's going to be okay. That's the task-oriented mindset. So you gave a great presentation. What do you think is the piece that turns the switch for them?
Like you're talking with the team styles, very much that A, that analyze, right? So being able to go in there and show the numbers, answering the question, tell me why does it matter? Why do I have to care? Well, based on these surveys from other companies, I know Glassdoor releases a lot of this. Companies like Google, those really big tech companies, all have the data to back it up, saying if you focus on the people, if you focus on the team, here's the numbers that back it up. You're going to see 15% growth. You're going to see 25% growth. If you don't do this, you're going to see a 30% increase in attrition. And everyone knows that it's a lot cheaper and a lot more time effective to have someone on your team versus trying to hire someone new and get them up to speed. So being able to speak that language, to put it into the data points, to put it into the numbers is really what makes it impactful for those individuals who are resistant to it. Yep.
Yeah, retention is one of the lines I use, that it's very expensive to replace an employee, even an employee who's just so-so. It's a lot cheaper to get them up to quality than to replace them. And if you can treat people the way they want to be treated, we've called that the Golden Rule 2.0. We've upgraded the Golden Rule. If you can treat people the way they want to be treated, they're more likely to stick around and to perform. And that people work for their leader, not just for their paycheck. And yeah. All right, good. So it sounds like you've had pretty good success with that places you work.
Absolutely. It's led to success. It's led to people being bought in, and it's led to asking for more. Because once I'm sure you've experienced this too, once they go through one program and they see the efficacy of it, they see the impact of taking that extra 5 minutes to get to know the individual, they want more and they ask for more. And that means we have to build more and provide more.
Yep. Okay, great. Yeah. So, success breeds success. And so again, try to start with, I think feedback you mentioned is a place to start. It's a good win because it's really concrete, it's specific, and it's really difficult for a lot of people to deliver. And so you help them over that hump and they see that the employee takes it well. Yeah, then they'll come back for what's next on the list here. So good. And we were talking earlier about assessments, and what do you, when you look at assessments, you've used quite a few of them. What do you think is the key to a successful assessment? What makes an assessment useful or effective in the work you do?
There are a lot of assessments out there, and for the most part, they provide great data, just a lot of information. But what separates the good assessments from the great ones are the ones that tell you how to use the data. Like, hey, here's a bunch of information, but if they don't tell you how to use that information, it's not going to be an effective tool. I really like the team assessment because it goes right to the how, right? It goes how you're actually going to be able to use this, how you're going to utilize these communication styles to just make that connection with your team, to enhance the relationship, to really meet them where they're at and provide them the information that they need. It's not always going to be numbers for the analyze. For the M style, they're really going to need that harmony, right? That teamwork. You're going to have to spend a little bit more time on the front end building that personal relationship in order to make sure you have that really strong professional one. And that's that differentiator between those good assessments and the great ones is the how. How do you take this information and apply it to your role right now?
Okay, yeah, thank you for the endorsement of team, and that's what we tried to do is to keep it really practical. Because I've also taken lots of assessments with lots of good information, and then what do I do with that? It's almost information overload. So trying to keep it simple, focused, and get something done. So can you talk about, you've talked a little bit about communication, how important it is, and how you've worked with various people. Do you have a story to share about when a light went on for somebody, or when you saw some real results relating, someone who wasn't a great communicator as a leader and learned that and it made a difference? So I don't know if you have examples to share with that.
One of them actually very recently. I was coaching a newer leader who was on an engineering team and just got moved up to the manager role, was having trouble with their backfill. So the person that took over their job, they said, I feel like I need to put them on a performance improvement plan. They're never really doing anything I ask of them. They're always trying to find new ways to do things and just, what's a better way to improve the processes that are fine. I said, okay, well, it would be very easy to just tell them the answer. But again, going in there and just asking a couple questions to kind of figuring it out had that aha moment. And it was, what is the underlying issue? And it was, well, they're not really listening to me. They're going off, doing their own thing and trying to find ways to improve these processes. I said, okay. And how was the relationship with your previous manager, the person you took over? They said, terrible. They just told me to do things the way that they think they should be done, that there's nothing wrong with the processes, and I should just focus on my work. Okay, and what made you successful in your role that got you to this manager position? And they said, well, I would break the rules. I would find new ways to do these processes. I would go in and I would find out what's broken and try to fix it. And, we never really worked. I said, okay, and what is this person trying to do right now? And they stopped and they went, oh no, like I'm doing exactly what my manager did to me. And I went, there it is. So we had a conversation about how to keep this person on track while also supporting that need to go in there and find new processes, to figure out how to do things better, create those left and right lateral limits to say, hey, here's what you can and can't do. I expect you to get the work done, but when you can go through and find those ways to improve it, let's have a conversation about it versus simply trying something and then telling me you broke something 2 days later. And that subtle change, that little way of thinking about how to communicate this person and work through the roles, change that relationship dynamic, change how the team functions. And now they're doing much better. They're creating new processes. They're finding success where they didn't before, all because you had to take that step back and look at something a little bit differently.
Yeah, you could have told them all that up front, and he would have just nodded his head and say, uh-huh. But you drew it out of him and it was a visceral experience that this is what I hated. I'm doing it to this guy. What a great way of holding a mirror up in a very gentle way. You didn't accuse, you just drew it out. And so you have a background in psychology, which comes through. You also have a military background. What was your ladder to go from where you started to learning and development? How did you get here?
In my first unit, there's always the need for training, right? Whether it's training from the manual, like, hey, here's how you do maintenance on this truck, to we're running this range or you have to complete this objective and there's no real set way to do it. So I gravitated towards a lot of those different programs, a lot of those things that you could do. Because of that, I was actually selected to go to Paris Island, where they do all the recruit training for people be enlisting into the Marines and joining that initial 12-week program that's just sun up to sundown, training. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every single minute of it. I got to do a lot of different experiences. And where I gravitated towards the psychology being performance psychology when I was running the water survival section. So I was responsible for the water survival training from those new recruits coming in, learning how to get in a pool and just stay afloat, all the way up to instructor trainers. So the people who would become water survival instructors would be responsible for going in this high risk environment and getting someone from not knowing how to swim at all to being able to jump in full kit, float in the water, strip it all off, and float around for 10 minutes or so. And it really became apparent when we had about a 50 to 60% attrition rate. And it wasn't because these people weren't physically able to do it. They were the top of their class. They were physical specimens. They were selected to go to this training, the water survival instructor training, and they were tapping out. They said, I don't want to do this anymore. Please send me away, because a lot of people didn't like being put in a pool and being told to go underwater against their will. So I wanted to understand the reason why behind it. Why were these people who are at the top of their game not able to get over these mental hurdles? So I started studying performance psychology and implementing a lot of those soft skills, like not necessarily the emotional intelligence side, but the mental performance side of things, visualization, breathing techniques, those things that, you really don't just pick up on your own, the ones that you really have to sit there and think about and implement. And we actually saw a 20% increase in instructor certifications after we started to implement some of these very basic psychological skills in the program that we were running. And I was like, this is great. Like, being able to see something, change something, build out these programs is really what I loved doing. And after a while being in the Marines, I just realized it was my time to get out. I got to the end of that cycle and said, okay, what's next? What's that thing that I want to do next that's really going to bring me that sense of satisfaction and fulfillment? Maybe it's taking this into the corporate world, taking this out, going and experimenting with what I had success with in the Marines elsewhere. So I started doing that. I started building training in corporate America. It was focused very on the technical side, started branching out more into the leadership, organizational development, soft skills side, on building out a variety of different programs from that new leader training. You just got promoted to manager. Congratulations. Let's get you up to speed, all the way to those very focused sessions that I talked about earlier, where, hey, we're going to spend the next 90 minutes thinking about psychological safety and how you can create it on your team. Not so much why it's important or what it is, but how you can actually go and do it. On weaving in all those different psychological concepts that I had worked on for years before into just about everything that I do.
Yeah, well, you certainly have a wide range of experience and a depth too, that you really think things through in a more thorough way than I've heard other people describe, and then pull it all together. So all that experience has kind of really evolved into a pretty impressive portfolio and sense of skills. So congratulations! It's been a good travel for you, it sounds like. So
thank you for that. Appreciate that.
Yeah, but we're just about out of time, so I have to thank you for being a guest today and sharing your lot of good insights. That's it for today's episode of Lead, Learn, and Connect. A huge thank you to Tyler Valerio for sharing his experience and knowledge. If you found this helpful, please be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review. You can find out more about Tyler and how to get in touch and his book in the show notes. And if you're ready to strengthen how you teach or coach communication, click the link to our website to learn more about the T.E.A.M model of communication. And follow us on LinkedIn. Until then, keep leading with intention, keep learning, and keep connecting. Thanks for listening.